talk that I thought about this week was to be or not to be conscious, thanks to Shakespeare. Every week we get up here and one of the ministers tells you that there is only God, that it is in us, as us, and works through us. But I don't know if you're anything like me, but I have sat in the audience for many, many, many years saying, okay, I hear you, but I'm not quite, how come my life doesn't match with what you guys teach us every week? Or what is it that I'm not getting? You know, there's some kind of, because this is the way my life looks, and yet we have this amazing belief system that we're working on in our heads, but there seems to be a short somewhere or something, and it takes us our entire lives to work out even maybe a few bits of it. And I wanted to look up the actual quote. So Ernest Holmes, in the first few pages of the religious science textbook, says, "There is one life back of everything. There's one energy back of all that is energized, and there is one spirit back of all expression. That is the meaning of, in him we live, move, and have our being." That's Acts 17:28. And yet, we get caught up in form, don't we? And we're saying, well, how is it that you're telling me that this tree is an illusion? Because that's sort of, we say, this is all an illusion. Well, how can that be? I mean, obviously something, my Al-Anon sponsor many, many years ago, when you go into 12-step programs, you have to have some kind of supreme power outside of you in order to help you recover. And so she said the only thing that I could come up with that I couldn't make myself was that bush that was out in front of the hall. And so we are seeing our gardens grow, our flowers, and we know that we can't make those things. So God has to be in this form in order that life is pulsating through each and every thing that is animated and not. And so that part of it we get is not the illusion. So what is? For me, it is our perception. And so today I wanted to give you some thoughts about our perceptions. We did a Buddhist sermon about the flower, and I know I've told you this before, but I really, really recommend that you do that for yourself someday. Whether you want to go take a lawn chair and put it outside in front of your rose bush and really spend 10 minutes just focusing on the life form that you're looking at in terms of a rose. And see that it's stillness. And yet you know that it's got to be an absolute powerhouse of chemicals and molecules and everything else that's going on to make these little beautiful little blooms pop with their fragrance and the new leaves and all of that goes with being a rose bush or your favorite flower or whatever life form you choose to spend time with. And what happens is you begin to recognize that you are still, that you are with that plant. You are in being. You're centered in being when you spend time focusing on being with this life form, without naming it, without making a story about whatever happened in the past, with when you pricked your finger and your mother ran you to the hospital, whatever all that stuff is. This is about just being still with the plant, with the animal, with the insect, with the night sky, with the moon, whatever it is that you are working on stillness. One of the things that I was watching earlier this week was a program on prophets of science fiction, which was really fantastic. If you're on Netflix, it's instant, so check it out. And George Lucas was one of the people that was considered a prophet of science fiction. But they were discussing, what was fun about it is they would show you what they did and how they prophesized the future and what we're doing in terms of bringing their ideas into fruition. And so one of the concepts that I got, which I have to spend some time thinking about, they were talking about the force. And he said that this one, he's a physicist, and he said at one point, before George Lucas came along, that they considered that the universe was made up of all atoms Adams, yeah, Adams. He said that was the end of the story until George Lucas came along and he talked about the Force. Now scientists know that the universe is made up of only 4% atoms. 96% is dark matter, the unformed. Put that in your cabinets. Hide and smoke. So, where am I? It is our perception that's screwed up. The Course in Miracles says when we really know, not perceive, but when we really know who we are, our life will change just like that. And I really believe that. Like yesterday I had a client who was Catholic, bless her sweetheart, came in and she says, "You're a minister for the PLC?" And I said, "Yes, I'm not pastor, but I am a minister on staff." And she says, "And you don't believe in Satan?" No. And I said, "No." Tom Sander, who ran the Positive Living Center down in Fresno, wrote a book years ago, which I just loved. And I said, and he said that Satan was a job. That the Satan in ancient Persia was a politically appointed politician who ran around the far reaches of the Persian kingdom, and over the centuries, their corruption and their pollution, they just did what they did to manipulate and maneuver and to get what they wanted and do what they did. The biblical scholars, when it came time to write the Bible, the biblical scholars wrote down that the epitome of evil was the Satan. And she looked at me, she says, "Well, Satan exists, he's out there." And she says, "But you don't believe that?" And I said, "Absolutely not." I said, because first of all, I believe that there's only God, that God is love and law, and there's not some kind of being or entity that lives outside of me who can manipulate me without my permission to maneuver me into doing horrible, harmful things to other living beings, including my planet, and that would so gladly send me to a place called hell. Hell no! But if we will change our perceptions, think about this, how she's got it compartmentalized. It makes me reel back. I'm just like, wow, the manipulation of being forced to think in those kind of ways, how conditioned she is to believe that that's so. And I'll have to tell you, I'm very, very grateful that I'm not at the effect of that kind of thought anymore. I never actually was. I was raised a Christian Scientist, and then when I was 16, my mother took me into what you call the occult sciences, and our basic metaphysics, where I learned astrology and started working on my psychic, strengthening my psychic abilities. And I read Seth back when I was just 16 or something like that, and I began to realize that, because I was watching a DVD on Eckhart Tolle last night, and he said he couldn't stand to go to school anymore when he was a young teenager, about 13 years old, and that he went to his father's in Spain. His parents had divorced. He had been raised in Germany, and then he went to spend his teenage years in Spain, and that how wonderful it was to be removed from the conditioning of one particular lifestyle into another, how that breaks you free of the constraints of one kind of conditioning to the other. And I thought, I didn't change my country necessarily to break my conditioning. What I did was I was guided by Spirit to break free from the thought forms that still hold people tight in that particular belief system, like hers. Not that she can't awaken just like everybody else. The ultimate is that we're all divine, absolutely, and that we all have what we need to awaken to the truth. However, some of us, for whatever reason, are designed, or our life is constricted in such a way that perhaps we just need more restraints for whatever our inner purposes are. And I absolutely know that the ultimate destination is now in Spirit. now we're back to perception. Sorry, I'm bouncing all over. Have you ever considered, and this is an attempt to help you break free of your perceptions about the way things appear to you. Have you ever considered that if you're out on a road and you find yourself with a flat tire, or in my case, a couple of weeks ago, I had a blown radiator. It's 102, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, no shade. And can it be frustrating? Yes. And so, but can you choose to do something else about it? Of course. So I'm sitting out there in that hot sun, and I thought, you know what? I heard Eckhart's voice in my head said, make friends with what is. What is that I'm sitting in the shade. It's very hot, but the tow truck's on its way, and I'll be on my way in just a few moments. The thing is that if I will accept the situation as it is, rather than bringing the irritation to it, if I bring irritation to the situation, I will suffer. If I make friends with what is, I don't suffer. Have you ever, I personally never understood that I bring the suffering to the situation as opposed to just being with what is and watching Spirit move through us and shifting things in a miraculous way, because that's what we call it. When all of a sudden something changes and it's like, that's not the road my head was taking me down. I had all these what ifs about this particular situation, and all of a sudden whatever was bothering me is gone. You know, like we've been talking a lot about John of God recently, the Brazilian Catholic healer that is down in Brazil, who does these incredible, miraculous healings, opening your skin with his finger and all kinds of stuff. If you have not seen a documentary on this man, you really should. He lives in the knowing of his divinity and ours too. So the appearance of physical laws does not necessarily hold him back. That was true of Jesus Christ as well. We can make choices in any moment, in any situation, if we know we have the choice. But the thing is that our thinking, our conditioning has got us in such a state that we don't realize, Eckhart says, that we are the space through which the thoughts drift through. We are space, 96%. So we can choose, like when I was burglarized last year, I had a choice. I had a distinct choice. I can go hysterical, I can become the victim, I can start thinking about this guy's a serial killer, he's going to come murder me in my sleep, blah, 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 blah. Or I can look at what I can be grateful for. And I chose to walk that path. And so I didn't bring suffering to the situation, not much. I did get upset. But hey, I'm doing a lot better than I used to. You know, so I'm very, very grateful that I had the clarity of thought to bring it in right this minute, right here, right now, and it shifted. What would the world look like if we knew of our holiness and we looked in each other's eyes every single day and could see our holiness? Can you imagine what that would be like? That is the edge of consciousness that we're right on top of. It is, I told you a few weeks ago, 21 million is all it takes for us to shift into that kind of consciousness. But we have to be prepared to create space around our thoughts and not necessarily take what we inject into a situation as fact. The fact is I'm broke. It doesn't mean I'm going to be living in the street tomorrow. The fact is I don't feel very good, but I'm in doctor's care.